Hello everyone, I am Ashutosh Garg from PM Intellect. The mission of PM Intellect is to support the PMP aspirants as well as the project management professionals for all their queries and the questions which they are looking for. Today we are going to cover the Project Management Professional Examination Content Outline, or in short which is known as ECO. The ECO was released in January 2021 and this is the base of the PMP examination. So we are going to cover what exactly are the contents of the ECO, how the ECO is related to the PMBOK 6 as well as PMBOK 7, what are the various type of question which comes in the PMP examination, what is the duration and the other questions related to that. Let's cover some general points. The PMP examination is being offered by the Project Management Institute. They are the one who conducts this examination. The question which we are going to get in the PMP examinations are being written and reviewed by the subject matter experts which holds a valid PMP certification, and that too it has been tracked by at least 2 references. The questions which you are going to get in the PMP examination are mapped to ECO, and that is the reason it is very important that you should understand what is in the examination content outline, because that is the main reference which you need to take. PMBOK 6 or PMBOK 7 are going to be just the references, and if you go through that you will find some noticeable difference. It's not that everything which is being written in ECO you are going to get over there. ECO is just the content outline, and the examination can come from anywhere in terms of the project management knowledge. Let's understand what covers under the ECO or the examination content outline. Please refer to the table. So here you will be able to see there are total 3 domains which are part of ECO. The first one is people, the second is processes, the third one is the business environment. People domain is the one which covers 42% and it comprises roughly 76 questions. When I say 76 questions, this is not the exact numbers, but the questions are going to vary for all the domains, but it will give you a tentative idea that what is the tentative percentage or the questions which you are going to get. The second domain is the processes, which is the biggest domain. It comprises of 50% of the syllabus, and it will cover nearly 90 questions. The third domain is the business environment, which is a very small domain. It covers only 8% of the syllabus and it will cover roughly around 14 questions. So in total you can expect 180 questions which is going to be there in the examination. Now the examination is covering all the 3 approaches, that is productive, agile as well as hybrid. However, the major contribution or the major questions which you can expect from this examination is from the productive or the waterfall, which consists of 50% of the syllabus or the coverage, and the remaining 50% is being covered by agile along with hybrid. As I mentioned, the questions are just for your reference. However, it may vary depending on the exact examination or what exactly is going to come over there. The examination content outline or the ECO comprises of domain, task and enablers. Domain we have just considered and gone through in the previous slide. So there are total 3 domains which are part of ECO. First one is the people, the second one is the processes, and the third one is the business environment. Let's go one by one. So when we say of domain, we actually mean a high level knowledge area which is essential to the practice of project management. Or in other words, we can say that there are total 3 domains which exist, and entire content of the PMP examination is being covered by these 3 domains. So the example, like people domain. Second is task. So task you can consider as the underlying responsibilities or the activities which will be there under the domain. For example, one of the activity or the task is manage conflict. This is the task which is the responsibility of the project manager, which is going to come under the people domain. Now coming to the enablers, so these you can consider as the examples or the detailed work which is required to be taken care by the project manager or the teams or the other stakeholders into the project. For example, if we consider the manage conflict, we are having enablers like interpret the source or what is the original of any conflict, analyze the conflict, and based on the analysis you provide your solution oblique recommendation. One point to note over here is that these enablers are just from the reference perspective. There can be much more. You cannot ensure or assure that these are the only enablers which will be there. So any enablers which is possible as part of manage conflict will be considered be it part of ECO or outside. Let's go through all the tasks which are there in the domain, starting with domain 1, which is people, which is comprising 42% of the contents. So what are the various tasks and what exactly we are having over there in that? First one is manage conflict. We have just covered in the previous example, so maybe we can skip it. The second task is lead a team. This comprises of giving the team the exact vision and mission, supporting the team with their respective activities and tasks, going through with the proper leadership style. For example, if you are in planning, you should be collaborative with the team members, or when you are in the execution or in the testing phase, maybe you will be directive and telling them what exactly is required to be done. Looking forward, what are the efficiencies which our person is having or the competencies the person is having, and accordingly and appropriately putting up in that respective task. So in all, supporting the team as well as leading the team in order to achieve the objectives. The third task is support team performance. So the first thing is to give them the KPIs against which the performance will be measured, support them in performing the activities, give them feedback in case if they are deviating or the performance is not up to the mark, as well as guide them in order to meet the performance objectives. The fourth task is empower team members and stakeholders, starting with to find what is the competency and capabilities which the team members and stakeholders are having. Second one is to give them the task as per their competency and capabilities. The third one is to support them in terms of the deliverables. And fourth one, give them the responsibility and accountability for the activities which they are working on. The fifth task is to ensure the team members and stakeholders are adequately trained. You have heard that before using a saw, it should be sharpened so that you can get the maximum efficiency out of it. Same is applicable over here. In order to ensure that the team members are delivering the maximum, it is important to know what the competencies and capabilities they are having, what are the competencies they are lacking or the requirement as part of the project, train them, and then take a feedback in terms of the deliveries, and accordingly keep on going with this cycle to ensure that you are having the best resources with the best competence. The next task is build a team. As very much evident from its heading, it is to build a team in order to work in a collaborative way. You have to understand what are the competencies of the team members and then collaborate and support in order to work as a team in order to deliver the project objectives. The seventh task is address and remove impediments, obstacles, blockers from the team. So the first and the foremost thing is that you need to analyze and identify what are the various impediments, obstacles and blockers are. The second one is to prioritize. The third one is to find a solution against each impediments, obstacle and blockers, and then address based on the solution whatever you have find. And the last one is once you have removed, reassess and find in case if there is anything still left, and then continue with this cycle. The next or the eighth task is negotiate project agreements. This is an important task which start with to define how the negotiation is going to happen. Based on the planning, you are going to participate into the negotiations. Once you negotiate, you are going to create or describe the boundaries or the bounds of a particular agreement. Once the agreement is done, then you are going to take on the objectives or the activities, prioritize it, and then deliver it. The next or the ninth task is collaborate with stakeholders. Collaboration with stakeholders is very important and critical because 90% of the project manager's time goes into the collaboration with stakeholders only. Now, to start with the collaboration, the important thing is to identify the stakeholders, discuss and understand what are the requirements or the expectations which are there from the stakeholders. After getting the expectation, then you need to align it with the project objectives or what are the vision and mission of the program under which the project is there, and then you need to deliver as per that. And time to time you need to keep the collaboration going on so that you will be able to develop the trust as well as delivering the expectation of the stakeholders in alignment with the project objectives. The next task or task number 10 is build share understanding. This is very important in order to have a cohesive environment of working. So the activities further which includes in this is to identify if there is any misunderstanding, finding the RCA or the root cause analysis of those misunderstanding, working with the multiple teams which are engaged over there to find a common solution, implement that solution and ensure that the solution is agreeable for all to have a win-win situation. The next task 11, is to engage and support the virtual teams. It starts with identification of the virtual teams based on the geographic location or the culture or the environment in which the teams exist. Second, to identify what are the various tools, oblique things which is required to be taken in order to engage the teams. Next one is to implement based on the plan of and the tools which is required. Fourth one is to take the feedback whether the engagement is going on in a proper way or there are some changes which is required to be carried out. And fifth one is based on the feedback, do the change and then keep going and continuing engaging and supporting the virtual team. The next task or task 12 is define team ground rules. Ground rules are very important for progress and success of a particular project. At the same time, ground rules should be the one which should meet the organizational principles as well as align to the program objectives. You need to define the ground rules, communicate it with your team members, and ensure it's being followed and there should not be any kind of violation. One thing is important, that any ground rule which needs some kind of amendment, you should have the room that amendment to be taken care of, so that it should not have any kind of adverse impact and help in the successful delivery of the project objectives. The next task is mentor relevant stakeholders. So it is important to identify the stakeholders who need to be mentored, plan for the mentoring, and then take a feedback based on the plan which you have made, that you are getting success or there are some changes which is required to be carried out. The 14th and the last task under the people domain is promote team performance through the application of emotional intelligence. There are multiple steps in that, starting with first to assess the behavior, second one to analyze the behavior, and the third one is to adjust as per the emotional need of a particular stakeholder or a key stakeholder. The next domain is process domain, which is the biggest domain and comprises of 50% of the content. This is the domain which you will find quite relevant and mapping with the PMBOK 6, because here we are considering the processes and you are going to find things out over there. There are total 17 tasks under this process domain, and let's go those tasks one by one. The first task under the process domain is execute project with the urgency required to deliver the business value. A business value is something which is very important for the stakeholders, because any project which has been taken, that is to ensure that you are delivering value and especially the business value out of it. Now there are multiple steps in order to ensure the business value. The first one is we should assess the opportunity and every opportunity possible to deliver the business value throughout the project. Second one is based on the opportunities, deliver the business value. Third, do assess that the business value is getting delivered as what you had planned and executing. And the fourth and the last one is ensure that the team members are aware about the business value, as well as they are supporting and delivering the business value, and any hindrance which is coming in their path, as project manager you are resolving and solving that. The second task is to manage communication. Communication is the lifeline for a particular project, and it is important that the communication should be given as per the requirement of the stakeholders. So there are multiple steps or activities which are there at part of this task. First one is to identify what are the communication needs of a particular stakeholder. Second, devise the methodology, the methods, the channel where the communication will be sent through. Also find out what are the format, the feedback, oblique, the level of details which is being requested or required by a stakeholder. Once you all determine that, ensure that you are delivering the communication as per the requirement, and ensure that you should take a feedback that whatever communication which you are doing is of meaningful or there are any changes which is required, and then accordingly adjust to it. The third task is assess and manage risk. This is a very key topic which is required to be carried out throughout the project, and there are multiple activities which is need to be undertaken. The first one is to identify all big and small risks associated with the project. The second one is to assess and prioritize the risk. The third thing is to identify the mitigation plan or the risk response plan. Fourth one is based on the planning, keep monitoring if the risk is occurring and becoming an issue. If that happens, then based on the planning, take the necessary action and step and ensure that you are mitigating the risk. And the last one is, which is repeating or starting the cycle once again. Keep a watch on all possible risks which is going to come or going to be visible during the due course of the time, and keep repeating the same. The fourth task is engage stakeholders. Again, this is a very important activity which is required to be carried out throughout the project delivery. So the first and the foremost thing is to identify the stakeholders. Once you identify the stakeholder, you need to categorize based on their importance, their impact, their requirements. Third thing is to plan how you are going to engage those stakeholders. And the last one is to engage the stakeholders to ensure that they are happy, having trust, and meeting their objectives. The fifth task is plan and manage budget and resources. Again, budget is a very critical factor which is required to be taken care of. It's part of the triple constraint. So here you need to plan what is your budget requirement, estimate the cost which is required to be taken care of in terms of any contingency as part of the reserves. Based on what you have planned, ensure that the delivery is happening as per what you have planned, both in terms of the budget as well as what the resources you have planned. In case of any deviations, you need to take the corrective action and ensure that your budget is as what you had baseline and planned, as well as the resources is what you had planned is being utilized. The next task, or task 6, is plan and manage schedule. Plan and manage schedule is also an important task, part of the triple constraint, and is required to be managed very closely. Here you prepare the initial schedule based on the laid down methodology. Identify the various milestones which are going to come, and once you prepare the schedule, you baseline it and then start tracking it, ensuring that you are meeting the schedule and managing any kind of deviations which is happening, so that the schedule remains back on track. In case if there are changes which is beyond manageable, then you need to re-baseline and then again keep on tracking. The next task is task 7, plan and manage quality of products and deliverables. Quality is very important ingredient in a project delivery, and it is important that you manage and deliver as per the quality which has been planned. So the steps are: first, to identify the quality standard which is required to be taken care in a project. The second part is to ensure whatever steps which have been identified as part of quality assurance are being taken care of. Third one is based on the quality assurance, in case if there is any deviation which you will find based on what you have planned, take the relevant steps to ensure to bring quality back on track. And fourth one is continue repeating the cycle. The next task, or task 8, is plan and manage scope. Plan and manage scope is also a very critical facets of a project management and part of the triple constraint. So the steps are: first, to identify what is there in part of scope. That includes both what is in scope and what is out scope. Based on the scope, drive the work breakdown structure or work breakdown scope. And then whatever is the scope, you need to manage it throughout the project delivery, ensuring that you are delivering whatever is in scope and not at all touching whatever is out of scope, as well as control the scope for any kind of deviation. The next task is task 9, which is integrate project planning activities. This is the integration of all available and applicable plan in the project, which includes the scope plan, schedule plan, cost plan, communication plan, quality plan, procurement plan, human resource plan, stakeholder engagement plan. In short, it is the sum or the integration of all applicable plans which is required in a particular project for its achieving for its deliverables. The idea is that we should integrate all these available plans and then ensure that the deliveries are happening as what we have planned. And in case of any deviation, it is required to be backtracked, controlled, and bring back as what we have planned. The next task, task 10, is manage project changes. Now, change is one thing which is inevitable in any project. Whatever good, whatever best planning you are going to do, you are definitely going to come across with the changes. Changes impact the project in two ways. First, you manage the changes, where based on the change which is occurring, you take some steps in order to ensure that you are still back on track, your baselines are intact, and you are managing the project the way it has been planned to manage. There are other changes which is going to do the course correction, where you are going to change your baselines, amend your plans, and ensure you are still moving in the direction in order to ensure and achieve the business value as what you have planned. The next task, or task 11, is plan and manage procurement. Now in a project, it's not that you will be able to do everything which is needed. There are certain things which will not be of a business case in case you are going to do it your end, and it is beneficial in case if you are going to lease it out or get it delivered through someone else. And here the procurement comes in place. So there are multiple activities which is required to be carried out over here. First, you need to plan how the procurement will be taken care, who is going to do, how it will be approved, how it will be channelized. Now, based on the planning, you identify your suppliers or contractors. You need to negotiate your contracts based on the aspects of your project delivery. And once you are complete this activity, you need to manage the contracts and ensure that the deliveries which has been planned happening as per the contract, and if there is any deviation, that is required to be taken for the course correction. The next task, or the 12th task, is manage project artifacts. In a project, we are aware that it generates multiple documentation. It is important that you should know how to manage the artifacts so that it is available as and when it is needed. So the first and the foremost requirement is to identify what is the requirement of project artifacts, what, when, where, how it is required to be maintained. Now, based on the requirement, we need to plan and do the management in terms of the version control and other things, and then validate that the way we are working and maintaining our artifacts, is it okay, or is there any change which is needed. In case of any changes, we do the course correction. The next task is determine the appropriate project methodology and method of practices. Now it is important to know that every project is different. There will be some small projects, some simple projects, some complex or some super complex projects. So one kind of methodology is not going to work. For example, let's take an IT project. Now the IT project, it is efficient if we are going to go with the agile methodology based on whatever the changes which is coming from the customer or from the team, we are accommodating it and changing it. It is not good in case if we are going to go with a waterfall methodology where we just plan and deliver, because by the time we will come with our output, things would have changed, and the output or the outcome which has been delivered is not very relevant. Same way, in case if we are good in case if we are going to go with the agile mode of working. In case if we'll go in that way, there will be multiple changes and we are going to ensure unnecessary. So based on the project, we need to determine at the start of the project what methodology which we are going to use, and accordingly we are going to implement it. Now, as part of ECO as well as a part of PMBOK 6 and 7, there are total three methodologies which exist. First one is waterfall or adaptive. The second one is agile, and the third one is mix of both of them, and that is the hybrid. So determine what methodology which is required and then accordingly implement. The next task is task 14, which is establish the project governance structure. Now project governance structure is very important for a successful execution of a project. Here we are going to define what are the escalation paths, what are the levels, and what are the threshold beyond which a escalation is required to be carried out. In case if a governance structure is not made properly, we might see very much variations. Either we will have micromanagement from the management, or there will be, it will take too much of delays for getting the relevant input or an approval. The next task, task 15, is manage project issues. Now in every project you are going to see issues, and the thing is that the soon you are going to manage those issues and close it, the better it will be for the project health. Now there are multiple methods and ways in which you are going to tackle the issues. First, identify the issues. Second, understand the impact. Third, do an RCA or root cause analysis in order to identify what is the reason, and then accordingly you can tackle the issues. There are two ways with which you can manage the issues. First, taking the corrective actions in terms of when you are already having an issue, you are working on that. And second, doing the preventive actions where before even identifying or before even the issue going to happen, you are taking the preventive actions or the measures so that the issue will not reoccur. And then keep a track on your deliverables so that as and when the issues are going to come, you are identifying them and closing them. The next task or the 16th task is ensure knowledge transfer, project continuity. Now, knowledge transfer is something which is very important in order to avoid reinvention of the wheel every time when you are delivering a project. The knowledge is very important even for support moving from one project phase to another project or even from one project to another project. The important thing is how you are managing and storing the information so that it is available for the project team as well as the project managers so that they will take the benefit out of the lesson learned as well as ensure that they are working effectively and not repeating the mistakes which has happened in past. The last and the final task under the process domain is plan and manage project or phase closure or transitions. Now, the way it is important to ensure the execution of a project, it is also equally important for the closure or transition of a particular project. Now, what happens in transition, either we are moving from one phase to another or we are moving the output of one project is becoming an input for another project, or we are handing over the output or the product service result of a particular project to operations for further maintaining of the business value. Now, in all these things, it is important to do a proper handover so that the persons who are or the team who is receiving should have the complete control on the deliverables and they ensure to take out or extract the benefits which is planned and for which the project was undertaken. The third and the last domain in the PCO is business environment, which constitutes total 8% of the scope. Now, in this domain, there are total 4 tasks. Let's go one by one. The first task under the business environment is plan and manage project compliance. Now, project compliance is very, very important. It might not be bringing any kind of business value to a particular project, but it is important from the legal perspective. Now, there are multiple activities which is required to be looked into. First one is to categorize what are the various compliance which is required to be followed in a particular project. What are the methodologies and the way with which we have to tackle or manage these compliances. Third one is to keep a track on these compliance and ensure that we are delivering it as what it has been required or needed to. And fourth one is we are ensuring that there is no deviation or any change which is happening and we are fulfilling the compliance as what it is needed or required to be completed. Task 2 under the business environment domain is evaluate and deliver the project benefit and values. We are aware that the project is being taken in order to ensure we are getting benefits out of it and to generate value. So there are steps which is required to be taken to ensure this. Starting with first to identify all the possible benefits which we are going to get from the project and the value which will generate. Second, define or determine the ownership. Third, identify what are the approach which is required to be taken in order to ensure that we are driving the maximum benefit as well as creating or generating the value. And based on what we are planning, appraise or inform the stakeholders the benefits which we are getting time to time as when we deliver. The third task is to evaluate and address the external business environment changes for impact on the scope. So we know that the environment is not static, it is completely dynamic and keeps on changing. So the first step is to identify what are the change which is happening. It could be geopolitical, it could be technology, it could be any other aspects with which it is going to have an impact on our project. So identify. Second step is to assess and analyze as well as prioritize. Third one is to identify the solution based on the changes. Fourth one is to implement the solution and ensure that we are back on track or do a course correction in our planning. And the last one is keep checking in case if there is any further changes which is coming which is going to impact our projects. The fourth and the last task under the business environment domain is support organizational change. Now change can happen in two ways. First from organization to project or second from project to organization. In the first category, if there is a change which is happening in the organization, we need to evaluate what is the impact it is going to have on the project, and then accordingly we need to take the correction steps. In case if a change is happening because of a new product which is new, or it is going to have impact over the organization, we need to again assess what is the change which is going to have on organization, and then again need to take the corrective steps as per that. Now let's understand what are the PMP eligibility requirements. First, you need to have education as well as professional experience. The experience must include leading and directing the projects. You also need to have 35 hours of formal project management education. The education should be taken from the authorized practitioners as per the guidelines of PMI. Let's go the background and the project management experience requirements. So it's been divided into total 3 categories. First, in case if your educational qualification is of secondary degree, that is the high school diploma, associate degree or global equivalent, then you need to have a minimum 5 years or 60 months of unique non-overlapping professional project management experience. In case if you are having a 4 years degree or a bachelor's degree or global equivalent, then you need to have minimum 3 years or 36 months of unique non-overlapping project management experience. In case if you are a bachelor's or postgraduate for from a GSE accelerated program, in that case you need to have minimum 2 years and 24 months of unique non-overlapping professional project management experience. Let's understand the PMP examination information. So as we are aware, there will be total 180 questions which is going to come in the PMP examination. Out of this 180, there will be 175 questions where you will be scored or marks will be given. However, there will be 5 questions which will be non-scoring, but the point over here is that you won't be aware in terms of which are those 5 questions out of those 180. So you have to answer all 180 questions irrespective whether they are scoring or non-scoring. Second is timing. So you are going to get total 230 minutes, which corresponds to roughly 76 seconds per question. So the time is ticking. You need to take quick and fast decisions, and there will be some questions which you will be able to answer in 30 seconds. There might be some questions which you need more time in order to understand. However, the average is going to be 76 seconds. You will get total 2 exam breaks. The first break will be of 10 minutes once you complete 60 questions. However, there is a point over here. You can take a break once you validate or check these 60 questions. Once you take a break, you won't be able to review or change your answers. It is done, it is submitted, you won't be able to access it. The second break you are going to get again for 10 minutes once you complete 120 questions, that is from 61 to 120. Same logic is going to apply over here. You need to submit those questions and you won't be able to get back on that or change your answer on top of it. The reference books which you need to use for preparation of your PMP examinations. So we are having PMBOK 6 edition and a newly released PMBOK 7 edition. A point of caution, we can continue using PMBOK 6 because PMBOK 7 you won't get or you won't find questions. Most likely it is going to come from 2022 once it will be confirmed by the PMI. As of now, the PMBOK 6 is what going to be the key reference guide. However, my recommendation, please also flip through PMBOK 7 so that you will get the ideas further, because there are many pieces which is related to PMBOK 7 from the ECO perspective. PMBOK 6 edition is having basically the process based approach. So it is having total 10 knowledge areas and 5 process groups in which it is covered. PMBOK 7th edition is covered basically with 12 project management principle as well as with 8 performance domains. In case if you want to go through and understand the difference, you can refer to my previous video which has been released on YouTube. You can go through that and understand what is the difference over there. Thanks for your time to understand about ECO and the related questions. Should you have any question which is unanswered or any other thing which you want to discuss, please connect with us on our channel via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Thanks a lot. Thanks for all your time and have a great day.